Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Field Trip Energy. Today, we are going to be talking about using I statements instead of you statements when trying to improve your interpersonal relationships and address conflict. Dun, dun, dun. Let's get into it. Have you ever been asked by someone you love or even maybe a coworker, "Hey, do you have a minute? I really wanted to talk." And you go, or maybe you had to be the one to bring that to somebody. This is because historically, when human beings try to address conflict, there's not a lot of education around how to do this successfully. And that is why today we're going to be talking about one of the earliest lessons you learn in psychotherapy, and that is using I statements instead of you statements. Let's take a moment here of honesty, of radical honesty. When you approach somebody with an issue, is it usually about things they're doing and you're going, "You're making my life harder than it needs to be"? Yes. But how successful do you think if you go up to that person and say, "Hey, Steve, you're always late. You're never in a good mood. You keep the house a mess. And I can tell you don't even want to be around me." Steve's going to hear these, let them land and go, "Oh, well, that is not true. You can't prove that. There's no facts there." What do we notice here? Steve has a point. How can anyone prove that without a lot of video cameras, which actually the way that society is going, we could be getting there. Anyway, I'm kidding. How can you factually prove something from another person's perspective? Doesn't seem very viable, does it? But what if it was phrased like this? "Hey, Steve, I really wanted to talk. I've noticed the house is a mess these days, and actually when that happens, I get so anxious. It's almost like I can't be productive in my job, and everything around me starts to feel like I'm suffocating. Also, I don't know if there's any validity to this, but I've just been feeling like you don't even want to be around me recently, and it's been hurting my feelings. Am I reading that correctly?" Now, do you think Steve's going to get as defensive as the last time? No. These statements are not blaming or accusatory because you are not putting all the focus onto the other person. You're actually inviting them in to be a part of the solution. By allowing them to walk around in your emotional world without blaming, then a human being feels like, "Gee, I can really be a part of the solution here." And actually, as human beings, we are wired to want to help one another if we are not feeling defensive. When a person goes into defense mode, as we've talked about on previous episodes, listening skills go out the window. And in fact, it becomes a giant mess. So if you are one of those people that dread confrontation, maybe it is just because you need to put a few tools in your belt to make these instances a bit more successful than they historically have been. Confrontation is a vital part of our interpersonal relationships, so it is imperative that we learn how to do so with grace, kindness, and effectiveness. Try this exercise out this weekend. Maybe you've been in a marriage for decades and you're used to speaking to your partner like, "Oh, shocker, you didn't take the dishes out again. You didn't take the trash out. You've created a mess in the house. Wow, great." Try going to your partner and saying, "Hey, I just feel like when the dishes aren't done and the clothes are everywhere and the trash hasn't been taken out, it just makes me feel like I am the only one doing anything around here." Bring them in nicely, calmly, and kindly. Watch the difference that is made when you do not put the other party in defensive mode and you invite them in. Remember, I statements instead of you statements. This is one of the earliest lessons in therapy, and it will greatly benefit your life. Thank you so much for tuning in to Field Trip Energy, and we will see you next week.